Are you slightly intimidated by the prospect of attempting to achieve
this from this?
Since the washing and blocking of laces is quite stubbornly one of those pesky tasks that our modern appliances can help us with only so much, I thought it would be a good idea to turn for advice to a time where laces were abundant and electrical appliances scarce. And have no fear, my friend, the Victorians have left us endless amounts of expert knowledge on the subject of the washing and blocking of laces, all based on ample experience and common sense, as well as some science, that I've compiled into 10 tips for you and which I shall be sharing with you today.
So you spent approximately 3 millennia on crocheting a piece of beautiful lace?
Or you didn't because it's a small project, but understandably you still want your finished work to look smooth and crisp and shapely. However, the moment you lay down your hook, it's probably all crumpled and generally not looking so fine. Enter the art of blocking. Not to mention, your lace will probably get dirty at some point, so you'll have to wash it. Thus, sadly or not, blocking your lace is not a one-off occurrence. In fact, the methods for washing lace are kind of inseparably tied up with those of blocking it, so we shall be talking about them together. And with that, let's get started. A word of caution though, these methods are designed for and therefore will only work reliably with laces made of natural fibers, mostly cotton and linen. They probably won't do much for laces made of synthetic fibers. In Victorian times, the washing and drying of lace was one of the duties of the ladies' maid, although ladies were encouraged to learn to clean it themselves. I feel like I ought to have a proper Victorian apron to do this, which I have yet to make, so we just have to imagine it for now. So first, I'll give you the easy, lazy way of washing and blocking lace, and then we'll talk about each step in detail with some extras.
The quick method for washing cotton or linen lace is to wash it with soapy water. For this, Household Discoveries recommends using hard white soap and hot water. I guess we can use Dr. Banner's Oven soap, so here goes. We can also add 1 to 3 teaspoonfuls of borax, which helps to fight acidic stains, get white clothes whiter, and is an all-round pre-treatment solution, so it might be a good idea to use it if your lace is very dirty. I skip it because mine isn't. If the articles were very dirty, or should I say much soiled, then we could also boil them in this solution, but they're clearly not, so no hit for you. We just rub the lace very gently or squeeze it between the hands, and when it's clean, rinse it in clean water. The Book of Household Management also advises to dissolve a little fig blue in the rinsing water. Fig blue was a bluing or whitening agent used in Victorian times. It was basically processed indigo mixed with starch and sometimes other additives that made clothes bright white. There are similar bluing liquids and tablets available nowadays, so you could just use something like those if you're going for that dazzling whiteness. I will skip this too because my lace is not white to begin with. It's a creamy off-white acrylic color, so it isn't in need of whitening.
Now it's time for starching without really starching, because this is the quick method. The following historical and readily accessible mixture does not really count as proper starch as far as I can gather. It's rather done in place of it, but it does give some stiffness to the lace.
Household Discoveries states, good lace does not require starching. Enough white sugar dissolved in the last rinsing water to make it slightly sweet should give it the required stiffness. Well, we'll see, I guess. So we dissolve half a teaspoonful of sugar in 1 pint of water, and dip the lace in it. Then we squeeze out the water. After that, we just flatten it and pull it to its proper shape. Iron it and boom, easy way accomplished. Well, this wasn't too difficult.
Now for each of the steps in more fancy detail. First, the washing process. This one depends on the state our lace is in.
If it's not too dirty, we can simply wash it in hot soapy water, as with the previous method, or alternately, pour boiling soapy water over it, and wait until it cools sufficiently to wash the lace in it. If our lace is stained by perspiration, for example, we should first remove the stains by gently rubbing the stained parts in cold soapy water. Then we wash the lace in hot soapy water, and if it's still stubborn, boil it. When our lace is clean, we rinse it in clean water, to which we could also add the whitening agent like the aforementioned fig glue or modern equivalent. Now, if we also plan to starch our lace, we add the extra step of drying it. This is usually done on a clothesline in the hot sun. When it's dry, we have a number of options depending on how stiff we want our lace to be. One milder starching method is the sugar solution, or we can dip the lace in gum water. This is a thin solution of Arabic for a little added stiffness if the article so requires.
If you want to follow original practice, you can get gum Arabic on Amazon or your local drugstore, I'm sure. However, I do not have any gum Arabic on hand, and I also don't really want my chemisio to be this stiffly starched because it's not a color after all. So I'll try another recipe for which I shall
boil 4 ounces of rice in 1 quart of water. Strain through cheesecloth. And dip the laces in the clear rice water. After using a mild starch like these, we usually just iron our lace or pin it to shape and let it dry.
But wait, we can go even further than that. Should we want to black our lace by starching it properly? Here's the method for that.
Starching is a process by which stiffness is communicated to certain parts of linen, as the collar and the front of shirts, by dipping them in a paste made of starch boiled in water, mixed with a little gum Arabic where extra stiffness is required. So after going through the first 2 steps, as in washing the lace and drying it in the sun, the articles are to be dipped into hot starch. Then we shall squeeze the starch out, dip the lace in cold water and squeeze it dry immediately, or even better, clap it between the hands a few times to protect it. Then we partially dry the lace again by laying it on a prepared cloth or towel on the table, rolling it up tightly and letting it remain for 3 to 4 hours. Okay, but how did the Victorians make starch, you might ask? Well, there are a number of different options. I'll tell you about the easiest one I found, so that this video isn't an hour long. Mix 2 tablespoons of starch with half a pint of cold water until it's smooth. Then dilute it with 1 quart of boiling water, stirring constantly. It should thicken nicely, but if it doesn't, stir it on the stove until it boils. We are advised never to let laces dry completely when starch is used, but to always use the roll up in a towel for a few hours method. After starching, we iron our lace. According to the Book of Household Management by Mrs. Isabel Beaton, we should press while still damp, use a warm, not hot iron. Ironing pieces while damp greatly improves their appearance. Ironing on a soft, rough surface both protects them and brings up the pattern. Finally, we assess whether the starching and the extra step of rolling it up was worth it. Another blocking method, for lace colors in particular, that I think can be used for a lot of laces is to, after having washed the lace, spread it out on an ironing board and pin it at each corner with fine pins. Then we can go over it with our whitening and or stiffening agent of choice. This could be either a modern spray, or we could use a sponge saturated with water in which the whitening agent and or the stiffening agent was dissolved. So this can be a kind of 2-in-1 solution. There are no further instructions as to drying, so we might just leave it to dry or possibly try to iron it. If we really want to get fancy, we can also baste our laces on a piece of cotton or linen cloth, taking care to catch every point with the basting thread. Apparently, the Victorians also used the equivalent of washing nets, because Household Discoveries tells us to baste fine lingerie in a cotton bag or pillowcase, equipped with a drawstring, so that the lace does not get frayed and buttons don't catch on it. A possible advantage to this questionably more cumbersome method of pasting our lace on something is that, if the piece of cloth is properly stretched after washing, the lace will not need to be ironed apparently. Although Household Discoveries says you should still iron it on a Turkish towel through a piece of flannel or linen cloth when it's nearly dry. Well, it seems there's just no limit to the amount of care and work and time you can lavish on your laces, I guess. Finally, to give you an easy way of avoiding ironing, according to Household Discoveries, we can also dry small lace articles between 2 pieces of clean white blotting paper under a weight with or without ironing. Choose the latter. A method for washing long pieces of lace that I've come across a number of times in old books and magazines is to cover a bottle with a piece of cotton or linen cloth, roll the lace around it, and baste it on, catching the points and edges with the basting thread. And put the whole thing in the wash as it is. Obviously, this method is not suited for the washing machine. If you try this method, after washing, we just rinse the lace thoroughly in clear water, pressing the water out of them with the hand, and dry it in the hot sun without removing from the cloth or bottle which protect them. You won't need to iron your lace after this either.
Well, as you probably can see, the washing and blocking of lace is akin to a choose-your-own-adventure story, but I hope you can find a way that suits your needs the most among all these methods. If you did think this was helpful, please like this video and subscribe if you enjoy all knitting and crochet patterns and methods. Until next time!